It is Friday night, and that means that it's time for the almost internet famous weekly TechSpective happy hour. Welcome. This week is brought to you by Scottish Ale from Belhaven Brewery. Actually, it's not brought to you by them. It's just brought to you by me because I paid for the beer, and Belhaven Brewery is in no way compensating me for talking about drinking or otherwise featuring their beverage. So, but it could have been. If Belhaven Brewery wants to reach out and contact me, glad to have the weekly podcast be sponsored by them in the future. But let's give this a shot. So, Scottish Ale, it says rich, nutty, smooth. Looks good. Oops, a little bit extra on there. That's good. I mean, it is. It's darker. I had an IPA last week, and I wouldn't say I don't like IPA. I don't prefer it. I like the darker beer. I actually like it even darker than this, but this is good. So, this was one of those weeks. They come along every once in a while, especially when you're as a freelance independent tech journalist or whatever, with just working for myself. There are weeks that come along where there's a number of distractions and it just seems like you're not getting stuff done. So this was one of those weeks. When I look back, I'm like, okay, I wrote this and I wrote that and I did some stuff, but the whole week felt a little unproductive. But let's talk about what did happen. Now, it started off, if we go back to last weekend, after the last almost internet famous weekly TechSpective happy hour, we had the fun weekend with the Starbucks Red Cup controversy. Because it's not really a controversy. Josh Firestein or whatever, some ex-pastor in Arizona, decided to make an issue out of the fact that the Red Cup at Starbucks for the holidays this year is just a red cup. Yeah. And he talked about it like it's a sign of the war on Christmas that doesn't really exist, but evangelists like Firestein insist on perpetrating every year anyway. And basically chastised Starbucks in this viral video for taking Christmas off the red holiday cup. When in fact, Christmas has never been on the red holiday cup. It's always been culturally and religiously ambiguous. It's been holiday themed. So there's snowflakes and holiday-ish type decorations in years past, but it's never been Christmas per se. Anyway, he thought he was very clever because Starbucks asks you what your name is, and writes it on the cup, so they know who ordered that drink. Which I've been to Starbucks that do that, but I go to Starbucks frequently. They almost never do that. I think in the 500 times I've been to Starbucks, I've had my name written on the cup maybe twice, which actually leads me to believe that it's possible. Well, let me back up. Okay, so Firestein had them, when they said, well, what's your name? He said, well, my name is Merry Christmas. And that way he tricked them into writing Merry Christmas on the cup. Pretty clever. So yeah. So the other thing I was going to say was, I actually suspect Starbucks may not have ever asked him what his name was, and Starbucks might not have written that on the cup. He may very well have written that on the cup himself just for his little viral video thing. So I was going to start my own, similar counter campaign, where when I go to Starbucks, if they ask me what my name is, I'm going to say that my name is @theevangelist is a douchebag, and make them write that on the Starbucks red cup instead. But I don't know. I think that's already died down, thankfully. It kind of ran its course. He embarrassed himself on CNN. I'm pretty sure that he knew going in that it was an invented controversy, and it was just a way for him to get 15 million views of his video, and it worked. So now let's talk about more tech stuff. There was an article we posted earlier this week talking about cybercrime is the new health crisis. So the health crisis is, we have all these uninsured, the cost of healthcare's, through the roof, and I think all the evidence I need that there's a healthcare problem is the fact that corner emergency rooms now are as prolific as gas stations and Starbucks and banks. Around here, there's almost literally an emergency room on every corner. And what that tells me is it's big business. Because you don't have companies investing millions of dollars building emergency rooms on every corner unless there's a huge return on investment. And apparently there's a huge return on investment because those things are popping up everywhere. And to me, that just indicates what's wrong with healthcare. It shouldn't be the thing that companies are like, wow, how much money can we make off of people who are sick? So anyway, I digress. The article on TechSpective was actually about the cybercrime aspect of and the war on healthcare from a cybercrime perspective. In that you've had breaches at Anthem, Blue Cross was a big one. I think Care First, UCLA. There have been a number of major data breaches in healthcare providers and healthcare networks, and one of the reasons that that's a big deal. It's a big deal anyway, but one of the reasons it's a bigger deal is that kind of information is the kind of information you can't change. When there's a data breach at Target and attackers manage to get your credit card or your bank info, that kind of thing, you can change those. The bank will just issue you a new credit card, and voila, you're good, and you have nothing to worry about. But when an attacker gets your name, address, phone number, birth date, social security number, those types of things, they don't change, and those are the things that can be used for identity theft. They're if you were to call a creditor and try to get information or try to open a new account, there's certain things you need to know. There's certain things that if you knew, you could probably kind of BS your way in, and that's the kind of information that attackers get when they successfully breach a healthcare provider or a healthcare network, kind of thing. So, so those data breaches are, arguably more significant and more insidious than your standard bank or retailer data breach. So that was one thing. We also published a review of the Samsung Galaxy Tab Active, which, you can look at the video we did of that, and you could look at the review. but it's actually it's a nice tablet, but it's really not. It's not necessarily intended for consumers. It's very ruggedized. It's dust and water resistant. It's got a ruggedized case that makes it virtually drop proof. It's got this. Most Samsung devices come with an S Pen, which has buttons, and they do more. They allow greater interaction and stuff. This is what they call the C Pen stylus, which is like literally just a stick with a rubber tip. And the reason is this tablet is designed for. It's designed for field conditions. It's designed for construction workers. It's designed for doctors. It's designed for use in warehouses. It's designed for like industrial type scenarios where there's a greater chance of it being exposed to dust or water. There's a greater chance of it being dropped. The people working with it are wearing gloves or other protective gear. So that's the audience it's meant for. But inside of all that, it's still just an Android tablet. It's still just a Samsung Galaxy Tab tablet. It is fine. It's a very, very lovely tablet as far as tablets go. But you're paying a little bit of a premium for some of the industrial strength stuff that you don't really need. I personally am not a huge fan of cases. I have like a pseudo case on my iPhone. I don't really do cases. In my opinion, the reason that you're buying something that's super thin and light, and the reason that that's a big selling point every time they come out with a new device, is because you want something that's thin and light. And I don't really understand why I would buy the iPhone that's very thin and light and then put it in like an OtterBox or a Life case or whatever, and have it be this massive tank encrusted thing that doesn't fit in my pocket anymore. But the reality is most people do get cases, and so the Galaxy Tab Active actually, it costs a little bit more, but not if you factor in the case. It's not that much more really, because if you were going to buy the case anyway, now it came with it and you're all set. So that was that. I also did a long overdue review of the Go Groove Bass Pulse speakers, which are very nice. I've been using them for a while, which is why I say the review's overdue. They're not high-end Bose. I mean, they're not super high-end speakers, but the audio quality and the bass are both good enough for the price range. I mean, these are like $60 speakers, and if you shop at the right time, I've seen them as low as like $35. And so, are they the greatest speakers I've ever used? No, but they are the greatest $60 speakers I've ever used. So, if you're in the market for some computer speakers, you should check them out. They're pretty good. And I'm gonna wind up this week with the news. So I started a while back. My son and I decided to do Ancestry.com just kind of as a fun hobby on the side. I know from doing a genealogy research project when I was in 6th or 7th grade, I'm already aware of some of the famous people who were in my family tree, and I thought my son would be interested in doing that research and learning some of that stuff himself, and so we decided to go down that path. Then I decided to turn it into a bigger thing. I said, well, hey, as long as I'm doing this, I may as well write about it. I may as well review it. So I contacted Ancestry.com. Ancestry.com sent me a few of their DNA kits. So they do, you just put a bunch of saliva in a vial and ship it back to them. They run the DNA test and they find, matches, and the vast majority of the matches are, 4th, 5th, 6th cousins. I mean, these are people who are, fairly far removed, but it's still kind of fun. And So we did my son did it, I did it. We did these DNA tests and sent them in, not really expecting anything, and come to find out, I had a brother I didn't know about. So, win for me. So now I've had a chance to speak with him and his wife. Very nice people. So it was an exciting week. All my kids are excited. I'm excited. Magically, all of a sudden we have, I have another brother, a sister-in-law, nieces. They've got an uncle, an aunt, and cousins, and it was very cool. So it will be interesting to write the actual review and write that story about the experience with Ancestry.com and what we were able to accomplish with that. It's one of those things that the more people who take the DNA test, the better the value would be, because there'd be a broader database of DNA tests to match against. There actually is someone else back in my family tree that we know of and lost track of, and it would be really cool to find him through a DNA match. I didn't so far, but hey, if you're out there and you haven't done the DNA test, maybe you can do the DNA test. Maybe you'll find out we're related. Go figure. So that was the good news. So I'm going to wind up with that. Cheers. So, there is one more thing. But it's just going to be a teaser because there's nothing official. But I do hope to have some news to share, hopefully in the next week to 2 weeks. But I went and had dinner with a friend in San Antonio last night, and talked about some opportunity, and I'm hoping it works out the way I want it to work out. But you'll just have to stay tuned and find out. But that's something to look forward to in a future episode. So that's all for this week's Almost Internet Famous Weekly TechSpective Happy Hour. Try a Belhaven Brewery Scottish Ale, and have a good weekend.